The Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. Brought to you by Medine's Collision Center in Baton Rouge. Take control, choose Medine's. Grosse Savant Lodge, south of Lake Charles, the true sportsman's paradise. Treads and Care Company in Central, the tires you need, the service you want. Harvey Auto in Shreveport, Bossier City, the name you have trusted for years. And Gage in Baton Rouge. Get better connected with Gage. Here's your host, Lee Brecheen.
Welcome back. This is a Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. Our guest today is one of the great coaches out there that a lot of people in Louisiana might not realize he's in Louisiana. His name is Kirk Doll, coached with Nick Saban at LSU. Was on a national championship team at LSU, was there 2002, 2003, assistant head coach, linebackers coach, and now currently with the Walker Wildcats in Louisiana. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Well, hey, I appreciate it, and it's great to be here.
First question people would want to know is why Louisiana again? You back in Louisiana. People don't even know you're here today. They will, but you've got a heck of a resume. You're over there with Chad Mahaffey at Walker, but what made you come back to Louisiana?
Well, Lee, when we were here back in the early 2000s, both my daughters, basically it's the last time our whole family was together, and both my daughters graduated from LSU, and one took off to California and one stayed here, and she's married and very happily, and have two beautiful grandchildren. So that's a good reason why we're back.
There you go. Family always trumps where you live. You know, I wanted to mention that Coach Doll currently is at Walker High School. He is big name resume over there with Coach Mahaffey. They got some big names. Doug Dotson's there. Doug coached at Como High School for a long time and coached at Central High School, my alma mater at Central, for a long time. And we'll get to Walker High School before we're done. But I want to mention, Kurt, tell everybody where you went to high school and where you were raised, to get to know Kurt a little bit.
Well, I grew up in the Midwest in Wichita, Kansas, and I was very fortunate. I went to high school, Wichita West, and it had started out early in my career in high school. Excuse me. We had one of the Hall of Fame high school coaches there by Eddie Crewall. And so from that point, football was very meaningful and very productive for me, and gave me an opportunity to go to college and so forth. So grew up in Wichita. It's not, Kansas is not quite the football state Louisiana is, but fortunately I was on a very good team.
A lot of great players come out of that state. Coach, was Barry Sanders a Kansas native?
Yes, sir. He's from Wichita. And, very proud of Barry Sanders. He's a great man.
What about Gale Sayers? Was Gale Sayers from Kansas?
He was from Omaha.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But Barry Sanders, one of the all-time greats. I know that Coach Snyder did a great job, Coach at Kansas State for years.
All time. He's one of the all-time great. In my lifetime, before he got there, I think they had one winning season. And obviously what he's done with that program is phenomenal.
I remember when Kansas State, Coach, you remember this, when Nebraska used to beat them about 7-0 prior to him.
It is brutal.
It was brutal. And Barry Switzer, remember Barry Switzer, what he would do at Oklahoma to poor Kansas, and then he in Kansas State. But it's improved a lot, and they're doing well. They beat LSU in the bowl game, which was a interesting game. LSU had 29 players. Coach, what was it like growing up as a football coach? Did you get your start in Kansas by chance? Did you start out?
What I did was, yes, to answer your question, I graduated from East Carolina, and then I came back, and I had all these dreams of being a millionaire and all that, but they soon fizzled out. And I went back to school and got my education degree to coach in high school.
Okay.
And when I was doing that, back then, Wichita State had football. And I went in and talked to the head coach, and he gave me an opportunity to be a volunteer and try out to be like a student assistant. And fortunately, that thing took off for me. I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. And from there, left and went into high school coaching in Texas.
Okay. And back then, Coach, they didn't pay grad assistants $100,000 a year, huh? Back then.
Well, there was, I think my salary was like $160 a month. And that included everything. I had to pay for my own school, room, board, books, all that stuff.
Wow. People needed to hear that. That's and those are the good old days, though, too. Gas was pretty cheap.
Oh, yeah. You got that right.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more to Coach Kirk Doll, who's currently at Walker High School, former LSU linebackers coach under Nick Saban. I want to ask Coach when we come back about his days at Texas A&M, what it was like coaching in College Station, San Jose State, and Notre Dame, the Irish, what it was like. Coach spent 8 years at Notre Dame coaching, and see what he gets his thoughts about what that was like being a coach at Notre Dame. We'll be right back.
Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. We have a great guest today. Appreciate Coach joining us, Kirk Doll, who's currently a coach at Walker High School, was at with Nick Saban. And that's something I want to go ahead and talk about, is that Coach Doll was at LSU 2002 to 2003, linebackers coach, assistant head coach. And I worked with Nick as I guess you say, contract worker back in the day before Huddle. I would film games. I had a video company, and actually, Coach, he showed me what to buy, where to buy it, and what cameras to buy, and what he wanted. And you know how he is. He's right to the fact. And I met with him one time in 5 years, but I met with Dooley, Lance Thompson, who I know that you were neighbors with, you told me, at LSU.
Yeah.
He was the D-line coach, and Carl Dunbar later on, several other different coaches. But what was it like working for Nick Saban? Because you were with him early on at LSU before, you know, the seven, what is it? How many national championships now? 7 does he have? 7 total? Is that incredible? Yeah. And so you were with him and just a short time, but what was your thoughts on working with, and what was your thoughts on LSU back then during that time? Because LSU was trying to get things going.
Well, first of all, I've been very blessed with being able to work some of the all-time great college coaches and obviously NFL coaches. And Nick showed me, I learned a great deal from him. And obviously he's very attentive to detail, and but basically expected you to work as hard as he does. And anyway, there was a lot of great things that I learned that I felt helped me later on as I went in my coaching career, and I appreciated that.
Linebackers at that time, Coach, y'all had a pretty good crew. I want to say off the top of my head, Lionel Turner was one of them, maybe Lionel.
Lionel's Walker graduated.
Walker, there you go. Yeah. One of the big names to come out. Chris Hawkins.
Well, Eric Alexander was another one, and then the year before the championship was Brady James, and so there was some really good players.
West Monroe High School. Coach, I remember meeting him, and when I run into Brady, I always bring it up. I went to a Wassman practice one day in Monroe. And I was with Brad Smalling's dad, the big 6'8" lineman that was on the team when you were there. And Brad Smalling's dad said, "You want to go catch Wassman practice?" I said, "Sure. I want to go look at this young linebacker who's a sophomore." And Coach said, "Yeah, there he is. He's a sophomore, 6'2", 200. And I said, "That's a good looking kid." He said, "Yeah, he's the fastest kid on the team." I said, "Yeah." And then the next year, I remember West Monroe. You know, he was at West Monroe. Coach Jerry Arledge, and the rest is history. And you're coaching him at LSU. What was it like to coach him? And I know that Trev Falk was there too. But what was it like, Coach, to coach that group with Eric Alexander and Lionel Turner? That was a good group.
Well, they obviously they were very good workers. They were very knowledgeable about football, just because of all the different types of defense and things that Coach Saban implemented with our defense, and Coach Muschamp, and they enjoyed working with them. God, they're good good people. They really were, and very conscientious.
You had a Texan and Eric Alexander from Port Arthur. Lionel was from Walker High School. Coach, did you think you'd be at Walker back then? You coaching a Walker kid, looking.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. At that time, I didn't know where Walker was at.
You're right.
So I'm sure it's changed its
Yeah.
dynamics now with how the growth is in this area, and obviously there's a new high school there and all that. So
yeah, we're gonna talk about those college buildings that Walker has too. Ask you about them. It's like a little mini college. It looks like Millsaps or Belhaven. Coach, what was it like being at Notre Dame your 8 years? You were at Notre Dame at a good time, and a lot of great coaches come through there. Obviously, everybody thinks of Newt Rockne and Ara Porsegan, and Jerry Faust tried it a little bit from Cincinnati, Ohio, Moeller High School, and then Lou Holtz, and the coaches that were there. And what was your time at Notre Dame like for you?
Well, believe it or not, I grew up being a Notre Dame fan.
Okay.
And I remember very vividly listening. Back then, the TV wasn't quite as big because it's been a while. But listening on the radio on Saturday afternoons and the games, and growing up, it was basically that or the University of Kansas, and were my two schools. But getting out into coaching and having the different opportunities that, again, I was very fortunate with, and having the chance to go there was somewhat of a dream. And it's a great school, obviously, and a lot of good qualities about that. The football part was fun. The recruiting was difficult because you're nationwide, but a lot of good things there. Just as any place, there's a lot of great memories. There's some things not so great.
Yeah. I want to ask you, we're going to take a break. I want to ask you when we come back, Coach, your thoughts on the hire with Kelly at LSU when we come back. And since the Notre Dame connection, because he was there a little bit longer than you were, a little over 11 years, I believe Kelly was at Notre Dame, which is a long time. And
yes, it is.
Especially that school. We'll be right back with more Coach Kirk Doll, and we're going to be talking about the Walker Wildcats, our last two segments, the great facilities they have, Coach Mahaffey, the staff they have there, Doug Dotson, a former head coach, also, like I said, Kirk Doll, our guest today. We'll be right back.
If you need a paint job or repairs to your vehicle, go see Medine's Collision Center located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Kincaid Avenue. The number to call is 357-7983. That's 357-7983. Your Baton Rouge Accident Advisors.
Welcome back. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report statewide with Lee Brecheen. I'm your host. Our guest is Kirk Doll, currently at Walker High School. Our last two segments are going to be saved for the Wildcats. We're going to ask Coach about the defense and what he's a part of there with Coach Mahaffey. But in this segment, I want to talk about, Coach, when you were recruiting for Saban at LSU, you recruited two famous kids, well, grown-ups now, but kids then. And you had East Texas, you had Matt Flynn you were recruiting out of Tyler, Texas. Yeah. And then you also had Jacob Hester at Evangel Christian. And I think you were talking to me off the break there, and it's very interesting. Those were two interesting recruiting stories I remember, because the quarterback recruiting at that time was Jamarcus Russell, Robert Lane, Matt Flynn. And I know you couldn't sign all three. What was that like with Flynn? Because you ended up getting Jamarcus and Matt, and then Robert was coming out of Neville. But what was it like recruiting Matt, a great guy from Tyler, Texas?
Well, if he'll remember, I told him he was a throwback because he was a type of player, very competitive, obviously. As you watched him, he played hurt. He was one of those guys that winning was very, very important to him. And he had a great example by his father. His father was a quarterback and at Baylor University. And so they, kind of grew up, and he was going to be a quarterback. And Matt made his commitment to LSU and never really Yeah, I shouldn't say never wavered, but even when Jamarcus said he was coming, and then Robert Lane was in, then he was out, that kind of stuff. He never wavered. And as you can tell, he stayed here and worked through all the different situations and was a quarterback for a national championship team.
That was a great year with him to Dixon in the end zone, a couple of catches against Ohio State.
Yeah.
To win it all. Coach Hester, you had Shreveport. And
Yeah.
I love going to Shreveport, and I know that you like Shreveport, but you said Hester was a heck of a soccer player. People might not have realized that. I didn't know that.
Well, he was. I just remember freezing my tail off one year, watching him and play soccer. It was very successful, and it was something I think that was also helpful for him as he played football because he's changing direction. And as you saw when he's playing running back, very successful.
Coach, when y'all signed Jacob, I mean, he had a little different something to him. And he made some tough runs at LSU, those third, fourth down ones. And he'll always be remembered by the LSU fans of the guy that wanted the ball when the game was on the line. But did y'all see that when y'all signed him, that he was going to be that kind of player?
Well, in my opinion, yes, because you could see it mattered to him about being competitive, regardless of what he did. And he was very competitive in the soccer field, football field, and it was the same thing with Matt. All that stuff was important for him to do the very best he could. And you knew that he was in for the duration when he said he was in.
Speaking of Notre Dame, you spent 8 years there. You grew up a fan of them in Kansas. You're from Kansas, but Coach Kelly, what do you think of the new hire at LSU? He leaves Notre Dame winning, which never happens. No one leaves Notre Dame winning. They usually get fired like Holtz or, unless it's Parsegan, right, or Newt Rockne, but nobody leaves Notre Dame winning.
Well, I think in this era, I agree with you what you're saying. Obviously, Coach Holtz left being close to being the winningest coach in Notre Dame history, but he stepped down through different reasons. From that point, yes, you're right. There was coaches that were leaving because of losing. Coach Kelly did a marvelous job to be there at Notre Dame for 11 years. Is through all the different dynamics, I guess you would say, did a heck of a job.
Yeah. People say, can he win in the South? And I think that's a little overrated, in my opinion. What do you think about that, Coach? Because, I mean, it doesn't matter where you're from, right? I mean, football is football.
Well, I think the staff that he's hired is a great staff. And there's a lot of Louisiana connections where I think the people of Louisiana realize that he wants to draw from within the state. And I think he's a very good coach. He's very well organized, detailed, and I think there'll be a lot of success. I really do.
I always tell people, Coach, if you're worried about where Kelly's from, Saban was not from the South either. He was from West Virginia, PA area over there. So
those are fighting words, Lee. He's from West Virginia.
West Virginia. Yeah. He'll let me know. Yeah.
Him and Jimbo are both from West Virginia.
Yeah. Speaking of Jimbo, and I don't want to talk much about it, we'll do it hilariously, but just shortly. But what do you think of NIL in a nutshell, Coach? What's your thoughts on it with what's going on?
Well, I think it's something that's going to be here. I don't think it's going to go away. I think there'll be some refinement of how they call them collectors are done in terms of managing the players. I think it's very beneficial to the players. I think there might be some repercussions for some other people in terms of the other sports. And it'll be interesting to see how it works out.
Well, now the next two segments, Coach, it's all Walker Wildcats. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Coach about Walker. I had a chance to go to a game last year against Bastrop. I watched the Bastrop game on the sidelines with Coach Bradshaw from Bastrop. And Coach remembers Reuben Randall and Dee Benton and all those guys that he coached. Went to LSU and Auburn, but we'll be back with more of Coach Doll, Kirk Doll. Appreciate him taking the time to join us today on our podcast TV show today. We'll be right back.
Be sure to take your car and truck for all your tire needs to Treads and Care Tire Company located in Central. The number to call is 331-8144. Family owned and operated since 1971. That's Treads and Care Tire Company.
Welcome back. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. I'm your host. Our guest is Kirk Doll, big-time linebacker coach, one of the best linebacker coaches. And, Coach, I wanted to tell you this. I've never told you this, but from afar, not knowing you personally, I've always kept up with you and thought you were one of the best linebacker coaches in the game. Just want to mention that. I always followed you. And when you were with Saban, I mean, y'all had a heck of a – and we'll start with this because I was going to do it at the end of the show, but the 2003 National Championship, before we get to Walker High School, what was that like for you? That was the first national championship since 1958 for LSU, and being with Nick. And that one year you're there, you get a ring. I mean, what was that like for you that one year? Well,
it was kind of a fantasy dream, really, going through when I went to Notre Dame for 8 years. I thought that's where I'd win a national championship, but obviously that didn't happen. And then when I came to LSU and saw the different talent that they had and just the importance of the football, it was really a neat experience. It really was. And all the coaches did a heck of a job, and we kind of worked through that one loss, and great things happened for us.
Going into Walker High School, so now you're coaching high school football, and Jace made a great point off the air. You coach high school now, you coach pro with the Broncos, Denver Broncos. One of my favorite teams, Coach. So I was an Elway fan, and then I know Peyton Manning did a good job after, and they've had some great history there. Quarterback Morton was pretty good back in the day, Greg Morton. Coach, you all three levels you've coached: high school, college, pro, and now back to high school. What has been your best, I guess, opinion of the whole process and what it's been like to do all three?
Well, I think that each situation, I think it's a great situation for young people. I think they grow. I think it helps them later in their lives, and just to have a small part in that is something that's very rewarding. And obviously, when it's in the NFL, it's all about money. But at the same time, the relationships that you can build with those players are important, so their productivity continues to grow, and they can obviously get a bigger contract.
Yeah.
So they all have benefits, and I think they all want to have some type of structure and discipline, and which helps them as they go on.
You're currently at Walker High School. I know the Wildcats are happy to have you. I know Chad Mahaffey's really happy to have you. And I know Chad was a great coach at U-High, won state championships there. He's trying to get Walker there as well. Very close, has done a great job there. But what is it like being at Walker? The AD there, the principal, Pierre, is a great guy. We talked about that. Visionary man as the principal of the high school. And I've taken a tour to the buildings in the last couple of years, but what do you think of the principal there and his vision for that school, which is, to me, incredible?
Well, he's awesome. As Mr. St. Pierre has done everything he can to give basically all the students an opportunity to be successful in whatever walk of life it wants to be in. And you can see that by all the different opportunities, whether it be in management of restaurants, the agricultural part of it, the mechanical part. He knows that the more school related activities they can get young people in, that is going to help them be more successful in their life after high school. But he's awesome.
One of the few schools where they have a bank in the school.
Yeah.
They got a pizza place in the school. I don't know, credit union, all kind of stuff in the school.
Coffee shop.
I can't keep up with Pierre.
Yeah.
Got a TV production class.
Exactly.
And now, Coach, what's your thoughts on Coach Mahaffey working with Chad? And young coach, has accomplished a lot in a young career so far.
He's Very, very, very hard worker. And he takes on a lot of different things and wears a lot of different hats, but he's done a great job with building this program, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Staff, y'all got a great staff, Coach. What do you think of the staff at Walker? A lot of experience there.
Well, and you're exactly right. And a number of them on offense have been with Chad for a number of different years and places. And then this will be the second year I'll be with Doug Dotson, who's the defensive coordinator. And we got a good group of guys. We really do.
You're like the John Robinson of Walker High School, huh, Coach? Like John was. John was like the consultant of all people there on the staff and the guy, man. But we got one segment left, Coach. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about Walker. Talk about some of the players that have come in. Brian Thomas, who's at LSU now. Might get your thoughts on Brian, and then they've got some good-looking players coming up at Walker this year, I mean, with spring just finishing, summer starting, and then fall, the 3 seasons of football and then off season. We'll be right back with more. Coach Kirk Doll, Walker High School. We'll be right back.
Gros Savon Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise. Gros Savon Lodge has fresh and saltwater fishing, alligator hunting, waterfowl hunting, and eco tours. Located south of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Give them a call at 337-598-2357. That number to call again is 337-598-2357, and have the time of your life.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. Our guest is Kirk Doll, a famed linebackers coach, been everywhere. Denver Broncos, Notre Dame, East Carolina, LSU, National Championship 2003. Currently Walker High School. He's with his family in Louisiana now, back home in Louisiana. Can I say home, Coach? It's home now, huh?
We closed on our home 2 months ago.
All right. High five, Coach.
Yeah.
Coach is back here. He's at Walker High School. Before we go back to Walker, Coach, your thoughts when you were coaching in the 90s and early 2000s in college ball. You'd sign a kid. Let's say you'd sign a linebacker out of Tyler, Texas, and he's not, back then there was no stars, right? Back in the 90s. And he was just a D1 guy, and you sign him and you tell him, look, you got to learn the defense before you play, which might take a year. And back in the 90s, I remember growing up that kids would stick around at least 3 years, maybe leave that 4th year. But now today, kids aren't even getting the playbook. They don't know the defense yet. They want to play right away, and they're not ready, and they're leaving earlier than ever before. What's your thoughts on the new mentality of?
Well, it's unfortunate, but there's very little patience nowadays, and a lot of the rules in the different states have even made it easier for the young man to transfer because there's no, like in Florida, you can live in Miami and go to school in Jacksonville, and there's no repercussions from that. And I think a lot of times a young man's cheating himself because he needs to stick it out and overcome some things. And that's why we were talking about Matt Flynn. I was very proud of Matt, the way he stuck things out, and great things happened for him. And I think a lot of times that would happen to a lot of other players as well.
And I'm going to tell you what, God has blessed him in the NFL when he played.
Oh, yeah.
Like 10 games and made a few mil. I mean, he did good. He did really good.
He did.
He was there with Aaron Rodgers, had a clipboard when Aaron maybe got hurt and was doing really well there. Old Matt, man. And he's in Baton Rouge. I think he married a Louisiana girl, and he's in Louisiana living. Coach, Walker High School, they'll have some talent coming back. Offensively, I know there's a lot of playmakers. Y'all got some tall receivers. Ja'Cory Thomas and Warren Young, a couple of guys coming back I saw last year. How does the team look through spring? I know summer's going to be even a different stage of getting better.
Right.
But what do you think where the team's at from the end of the season through spring?
Well, I think there's a lot of really good things that have happened in terms of what Coach Mahaffey did with some things in the offseason for leadership and accountability and those type of things. And I think it's really helped our team. And it basically showed a lot when we had our spring game against St. James and Plaquemine. I thought there was a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of great effort. Now, we're not perfect by no means, but there was some really good things that happened, and we look forward to the summer just making it even better.
As you being a linebackers coach, most of your career, you got all these spread offenses in high school now. I know that when I was growing up, there was very few spread. I played high school ball, it was power I. We didn't throw the ball maybe twice. I wish my coach would have, but we ran the ball all the time. But now, how hard is it to prepare in high school because you don't have all the, the pieces all the time to play the defense with these spread teams now?
Well, I think what's taken place is the spread offenses are almost dominant in high school now. And so, people are basically getting their defenses adjusted to that. And then all the different, like when you get into the wing tees and all that kind of stuff, that's kind of a new thing that you have to teach them as you go along. But with the summer that you have in the state of Louisiana, the opportunities to practice, it gives you an opportunity to have a diverse defense and one that you can adjust and take care of some things.
What I like, Coach, you get your thoughts, those hybrid linebackers now in high school. You didn't have the hybrids in the 80s and 90s. And now you got the hybrids in college that are sought after.
Yeah.
Those 5'10", 185 guys that are 4.55 that can cover inside, because the fifth guy is always a tough guy in college now. But now high school, you're seeing a lot of hybrid guys that are linebackers / safety / nickel corners. Exciting. I think it's exciting because you're just seeing more athletes on the field and defense. Do you agree with that?
No question. That's why they get in spread offenses, to spread you out and isolate on somebody that athletically can't match with you. And that's why you see basically what we used to call dime defense, where you have 6 DBs. That's what you're seeing a lot now because of the spread offenses.
And if you have a 6'3", 200-pound safety, that's a bonus in high school.
Well, yeah, I agree with you there.
A downhill outside backer / safety coming down. You were talking about that OP Walker team back in the days, Coach. When we're talking Frank Wilson, when you were recruiting at LSU, and Nick was talking and signed a bunch of players off that team. I thought the best DB I've ever seen play was on that team, Daryl Johnson. He was a safety who signed with LSU, never played at LSU, but he had 180 tackles and 12 interceptions that senior year, 5 pick sixes in that one season. And but that same team had LSU signed Dominique Cooper, a linebacker, or one of your linebackers, and also they had a receiver that signed with LSU, Craig Davis, that went in the first round. But is there a high school that sticks out to you when you were at besides Evangel recruiting Jacob Hester that you just enjoyed watching a lot back in those days in 2003?
Obviously West Monroe. They had some really good teams and really good players from the state of Louisiana. The area that I recruited, I would say that those two were the ones that I enjoyed the most, Evangel and West Monroe.
I'm sure Houghton, Louisiana, Bossier City, Natchitoches enjoy hearing us talk about Bossier High and Booker T. Washington, Huntington, Woodlawn, and Shreveport. You hit all those schools, Coach.
Yeah, the Woodlawn, there's an interesting recruiting story when I was at a different university, but we won't get into that one.
Okay. Was that Texas? No.
No comment.
No, they and another school over there, Captain Shreve, they're loaded this year. Just to give you an idea how Shreveport's improved, Coach, since you were recruiting there, they didn't have any D1 players during that time, Captain Shreve. Last year, they had 12 players signed.
Oh, wow.
This year, they're going to have 13 kids possibly signed this year.
That's awesome.
Captain Shreve.
That's awesome.
Really changed a lot. And then Parkway obviously wasn't like that in 2003. They didn't have all those Terrace Marshalls playing when you were recruiting, huh, Coach?
No, sir. No, sir. They did not.
Coach, any thoughts to any high school coaches out there that are watching? Any guys trying to get in the business? Any advice to a young man that's getting out of college, getting a college degree, wanting to be a coach now? Because we need coaches. We need guys coming up coaching high school football, and not just to go college. But any thoughts on young guys that are watching?
Well, I think, like in anything, it's not easy getting started, but if you have a passion for what you're doing, like I don't feel like I've really had a job for the last, 40 years. It's something that's very rewarding. Sometimes you're not going to make the millions of dollars that some of the other guys are, but there's other things that as you see a young man become a become a husband, a father, it's very rewarding.
Final question: was Barry Sanders the best running back ever?
You got it. He is.
I knew you'd say that because you're from Kansas.
From my hometown now.
From your hometown too, man.
Yeah.
Coach, thanks for taking the time with us today. Don't hang up yet. I'm gonna end the show. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com. You can go to YouTube to watch the show, or you can go wherever you get your podcast. We're on Podbean. iHeartRadio carries it. We've got several people that carry it, or our website, lafootballmagazine.com. We'll see you on Monday. And next week, we also have Blake Shapen, the quarterback from Baylor University in Waco, Texas. Blake Shapen that played at Evangel Christian in Shreveport. We'll see you on Monday.
Gage has served Louisiana for over 40 years. Let Gage create a custom tailored solution for your business and become your partner in technology. Give them a call today at 225-753-4243 and help your business get better connected with Gage.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.